So good morning. It is vlog 7. We've done 7 already of the Malazan vlogs Memories of Ice. We're up to chapter 17. We have the back door open because the weather in the UK today is stunning. It has been most of this week, and at some point I need to get out and cut my grass because it's overwhelming. And if I cut it, even though I have a patio area, we can at least enjoy some of the sunshine and read outside. But as it stands at the moment, it needs some repair, let's say, from winter. So should we crack on with chapter 17? We left chapter 16 with the facts, sadly, of Brooke Hallion being dead. Candace is dead. The only one who seems to have survived it all of the sort of the main characters is Ictovian. And there's been some betrayal. So in chapter 17, as I said in the last video, we find out that Tok was sent to the matron. I had my suspicions, they were confirmed. He is with the matron, and she just basically keeps crushing him, squeezing him, breaking his bones, but he's got this spell cast on him where every time his bones are crushed, they get repaired. So he's in just this loop of torture. Alongside that, he's not getting any nourishment of any description. He's not getting fed. He's not getting watered. So he is breastfeeding, but not from the matron, from his mother in his thoughts, and that is nourishing him for now. Magic, never sure how it works, and then when he soils himself, the matron's licking him clean. So that's a thing. But Tok is having visions, and he thinks that he's seeing Silver Fox and his other group with Toll, etc., potentially coming for him. Now, it seems that everything he's seeing, the seer is seeing. So, sadly, the seer is now going to move both Tok and the matron, taking them north. Now, when we read more into chapter 17, that isn't necessarily the best move on the seer's behalf, but we'll go more into that. Yes, chapter 17. So Paran and the group, Trot, etc., and the Baghast have reached Capistan, and there's not much of it left. There is only literally Paran, Trot, the rest of the bridge burners, which is 37 soldiers in total, and they are looking to take on whatever's left at Capistan that the people of Capistan didn't manage to get rid of. It seems like Silver Fox is also reaching out to Paran on a regular basis now. She's reached out to him 3 times in this last week. But Paran is trying to pull away. He's trying to hide himself from her thoughts because he has an odd suspicion that she's delving too deep into him, and he's feeling a little bit sort of pried into and wants to hide certain things. So he's hiding himself a little bit. My question to this is, and there is going to be questions throughout this, so my question to this is, will this have an effect on Tattersail if he's pushing her away? Because the idea is, from Whiskey Jack, to bring Tattersail forward so that the other 2 entities don't get the opportunity to take over. We don't want Blurden taking over, and we don't want Night Chill taking over. So he kind of encouraged Paran to encourage Tattersail to come forward. So in Paran doing this, is he pushing Tattersail further away? I guess we'll see. So that, as I say, they reach Capistan. It's a mess. There's bodies everywhere. Hundreds of them. Bodies strewn everywhere. And there's a point where they're having to actually physically climb corpses to get over certain points. And there's a quote in the book that says, "A war devoid of mercy." And it definitely gives you that impression that it is that kind of environment. It's just this war of reckless ruin, really, that doesn't really potentially need to happen, but it's happening regardless. So what happens then is there is this sort of slope of bodies, and this slope of bodies leads to where Gruntle is and his crew. So the Paran and etc. climb up this slope of bodies. They're not exactly happy to be doing this or overwhelmed with joy, but that's the only way to get to there. So they do this, and they meet up with Gruntle and Stoney and the rest of the guys. But Stoney has been injured, so it needs Mallet to heal her. And he's okay to do this because he's now protected by the Baghurst and their Delun healers from, what's his name? His name escapes me. The guy who Quick Ben saved. Talonbass, or it's something along those lines. I don't begin with a T. I will speak about him later in the chapter, but right now his name escapes me. And they're having a good old chat. And as Picker arrives, Gruntle knows that she's got something that is his, and that's those talks. So she can't take them off. She's been trying, but she can't. But Gruntle can. So he rids her of the talks and puts them on himself. And she's obviously elated to have these things removed, because the closer they've been getting to Capistan, the more they've been crushing her arm. So she's elated. And in the meantime, they heal Stoney. And Answer, who is, like I said, becoming one of my favourite characters, turns round and says, "Hello, Capistan, the bridge burners have arrived." And I just love that line, because that is kind of the feeling that you get is, the bridge burners are here, people. The bridge burners are here. You get that kind of feeling when the bridge burners show up. So yeah, as I say, the talks have been removed off Picker, and now we've got Paran having these visions. But he's not sure who they're from. He knows it's not Tattersail now. He's not sure whether it's Nightchill or Balurden. And he's in this place, and he's seeing different sorts of things, but three figures are there. And the ragged and the dying. I'll get my words out in a minute. And the sky has tore open, and a god has stepped through. But it's saying that there's one god's dead to be replaced, for the mortals to swear to it. So I'm thinking, is this to do with the crippled god? But I'm not entirely sure. So we continue to read. And that's when we realise it's going down here with Paran. So we've got Nightchill trying to communicate with Paran. That's who it is. It's not Tattersail, it's Nightchill. And from what she's saying, Paran's getting this very strong, distinct feeling that Nightchill is trying to manipulate him, and he's having none of it. He's already found out that Nightchill was pretty much, along with Curul, the reasoning why Gruntle has become Tiger of the Summer, or Treach, or Trake. She's had an influence in that happening. But what she also wants to do is she wants to get Paran on side with Curul. And the reasoning for that is because her brother, Draconis, is still trapped in the sword. When Anamander Rake fought Draconis and beat him, he then sealed his soul in the sword, and he's chained to it. So in order for the three elders from the prologue, Curul, Nightchill, who was known as Sister of Cold Night, and Draconis, to be together again, Draconis needs releasing from the sword. But the only way to do that is to break the sword. And if you break the sword, then that means that all the other spirits that are within it, or the souls, will be released too. And we don't want that. That's not something that we want. So she's basically saying there is time, there's no rush, but you will need to speak to Draconis somehow to suss out how we can do this, how we can get Draconis out but leave the rest of the spirits in. So that's now a new kind of task for Paran. With him being the master of the deck, apparently this is a task that's now put on him. Because the elder gods are trying to work together. But my question to that is, and I will ask it again at the end, are they working together for the right reasons, as in to help with this war and potential future wars, or are they working together to have power again? Do they want to be the powerful united front? Guess we'll have to see. So Shield Anvil, which is No, Itcovian. I always want to go Iktovian when it's Itcovian. Itcovian, shield anvil, and what remains of his soldiers are making the way to the thrall. On their way to the thrall, because they've been in the palace, where, as we know in chapter 16, the prince was killed, his skin was removed, and was placed over a cross. How nice. What a lovely decoration. How lovely. Let's just have some prince's skin on a cross. How beautiful. So they've removed that off the cross now and put it back onto the prince. So that's a thing. But that's where they've been, in the prince's tower. Now they're on the way to Thrall, and they're meeting up with the Baghurst on the way. And this part, as they get to the plaza, and this part gave me goosebumps. So they get to the plaza. So you've got Itcovian, shield anvil. You've got the Baghurst. Gruntle joins with Paran and the rest, and then you've got more Baghurst that show up. They all start clanging swords. They all start doing that and that. Reading that gave me chills, because you can just imagine what that feels like. That sort of, what's the word I want? That kind of rallying feeling, that let's do this, that kind of camaraderie to say, yes, we're all different, but we're all in this together. So that gave me goosebumps reading that. I liked that. So now they're all at the plaza. The massed council of priests come from the thrall, dragging somebody with them. And this turns out to be Rathfenna, who deceived them, who performed the reeve, and therefore then committed Bruchalion, Canadas, etc. to death. Canadas. Canadas died because he was in the warren and the poisoning, and that's what took him healing Itcovian. So, but Bruchalion and his remaining soldiers, they were basically slaughtered because of what Rathfenna did in initiating the reeve. So they're dragging him out into the plaza to face his judgment, so to speak. And Fenna, because of what Rathfenna has done, Fenna, their god, is no longer present. He has left. I think he's in the mortal world now because of what they've done. So they have no god now. There's no god for the Capistan people. And obviously we know how loyal Itcovian is to Fenna. He takes his vows very seriously. So he's hugely hurt by this. Not just the loss of Bruchalion, but the loss of his god as well. This has massively hurt the shield anvil. So he wants justice. And he takes it. There is a little bit of an argument saying, you're not a mortal sword, you can't make this decision. At that point, Gruntle steps up, being the mortal sword of Treach, the Tiger of Summer, god of war, and says, well, I give permission. It's put a little bit more blue than that, but he says, basically, I give permission. I want this done. And so, being held down by a female warrior, Itcovian takes his sword and slashes off Rathfenna's hands. They're gone. And these are an offering to a god. Can't be Fenna because Fenna's gone. And there's some arguments going on around amongst this, saying the Rathtrake saying you can't do this, he's got no god to go to, he'll be lost and just ripped to pieces with his soul going nowhere. You know, as much as the crime is bad, does it really warrant that? And Paran is saying, you know, this is the choices that I made, but I don't really want anything to do with it. Eventually he does have something to do with it. He does do something. But Itcovian seems to be determined in his outlook. So he does. He chops off both of Rathfenna's hands to wait and see if there is a god that will come and collect him and feel mercy for him. The next thing you know is that Rathfenna's body starts to show up writing and markings and bubbling and blistering. And it seems like her god has chosen him to take him. I'm not sure which god, it doesn't really say, but it does seem like these are signs of his crime and a god has marked him to take him. And watching this happen, it seems to me that Itcovian has a change of thought, and he feels some potential guilt towards Rathfenna, that this isn't necessarily the suffering that he should have. I think his humanity, rather than his revenge, kicks back in. And what he does off the back of this is he picks up Rathfenna and hugs him. And this is when we find out properly that Shield Anvil is the man who is going to take on the guilt and grief of the people and the gods. Because as he's holding Rathfenna, the god comes to collect the soul, and Shield Anvil also feels the grief and the guilt of the god, and goes to help the god too. And the gods, for some reason, don't like this. He tried it with an Asta, and an Asta ran away. He went through his portal with his mum and wouldn't allow it to be done to him. The gods, for some reason, don't want their grief being taken. I suppose because it's a powering force behind what they do. And if that's not there, then what do they have left to fight for? They don't all necessarily fight for the well-being of the people. There's more to it than that. Revenge or, ultimate power. But if the grief is taken away and the guilt and the shame of how their life was, then they are just left with commonality. So then there's nothing really to fight for except what would be the greater good. And is that enough? So anyway, this god, he gets, the Shield Anvil gets some visions from the god of what the god's gone through and what they've seen, and how awful it has been through history. And eventually the god breaks away and Rathfenna dies. But Ictovian has taken on a lot of grief. Paran approaches him and says that it feels like it's cleansed. We feel cleansed. You can feel the difference. So this seems to now be where Shield Anvil is. He is now the carrier of grief, and this is his purpose. Although he has no god in this story to support him anymore, there's no Fenna, but this is his purpose, trying to correct the world by stripping the people of their grief and carrying it in himself, potentially because of his loyalty to his faith. That's how I'm seeing it. So Gruntle, who is now part of the Tiger of Summer, the god of war, comes around. This whole time, whilst he's been this super heroic warrior, it seems to have really been Treach sort of taken over his body and making circumstances happen, because obviously that's his speciality, it's war, and he's very good at it, otherwise he wouldn't be the god of it. So he took over Gruntle, made this happen, hence why Gruntle is now covered in these stripes. But Gruntle has come back now through what's happened with the Shield Anvil. Gruntle's come out and he's back at the forefront, he's running the show, and the Wrath Drake approaches Gruntle and wants to have a word with him, telling him, you've got other things that you need to do now. But Gruntle, being back to where he is like, I bow to no god, I just do me, I don't follow anybody's rules, I'm a me man, and that's the end of it. And I kind of like that quality about Gruntle, and he's flirting again with Stoner, which is good. We like that little bit of flirtation back and forth. We hope something will come of it, but who knows? I hope so. I'll keep my fingers crossed for Gruntle and Stoner. So here are my questions. Now Stonies and Gruntle are flirting with each other again and not bowing to any gods. What will this dynamic duo, Stony Menicus and Gruntle, the caravan master, what will they do now? Will they stay in Capistan? Will they move with a different clan? Will they move around? What exactly are Gruntle and Stony going to do? Where are they going to go? It seems like he may have to stay in Capistan because he now holds the god of war within him. But will he just ignore that and go about his business? Who knows? I also think that Ictovian, I think that's a form of dyslexia creeping out of me, that I'm swapping these letters around. I also think that Ictovian has a big job on his hands to be the bearer of grief for the whole world. That is a huge, huge task to undertake for one person, especially with no god to support him. Or maybe there is a God that's going to support him and we just haven't found out yet. But that is a huge undertaking for one person. So how will he fare in this task as we go along through the story? How long will Shield Anvil be able to keep this up? Is it going to be his ruination, or is it going to be what ascends him? I guess we'll have to find out, but that's the question. What will become of Capistan now that we've got rid of the Panian Domain? However, the place is in a shambles. It has no prince anymore. It has no god. What will become of Capistan? Will Gruntle and Stoner decide to stay in Capistan, using the fact of that he's now with the god of war to be the new god of Capistan? Will Paran actually go after Draconis? Will he do what is being asked of him by Nightchill and seek out her brother and put himself potentially in danger again to get the elder god out of the sword? While the Barghast turn their allegiance, will the Barghast, now they have the bones of their ancients, will they turn their allegiance in the war? Will they turn from being with the bridge burners, etc., to attend themselves? Will they make it about what they can gain out of it? And are the elder gods, such as Nightchill, Krull, Draconis, wanting to be together to fight this bigger threat, this matron? Do they want to be together to fight the bigger threat for the sake of the people? Or do they want to be together because they've got their own ideas in this and they're after potentially more power and to be kind of rulers of this world again? So those are some of the questions that I have in relation to chapter 17. It was a great chapter. Really, really interesting. It's one of those where I love a good chapter where you get the questions from it, where you're there again asking, well, what about this and what about that? And I do enjoy a good chapter. So I have started chapter 18. We're some ways into chapter 18. I'd say a third. Definitely not quite halfway, a third probably of chapter 18. And we start off with Quick Ben. Now, Quick Ben's been out for a little while, but he's come round. He's come round now. And the acorn effigy, and this is the name I was trying to say before, the acorn effigy of Talamandas has been watching over him. And it's hilarious. It's a grouping of sticks with an acorn head, and this is the sort of essence of Talamandas in his physical form. This is how Hud's made him, and this is how he is. So whilst Quick Ben has been out, he's been dreaming but verbalising his dreams, and Talamandas has heard, and he's been dreaming. The burden he's been dreaming of is the sleeping goddess and the crippled god, and how it's his, Quick Ben feels it's his duty to save the sleeping goddess and take on the crippled god, even though he's just a mortal mage. He feels this. He feels he's capable, actually, to take on the crippled god. I do too, but I don't think he's just a mortal mage. Talamandas believes, via his ancient spirits, who are obviously conversing with him, they too believe Quick Ben is capable. So they have a solution for this problem of Quick Ben's warrens. And it's a brilliant solution. This is going to change this story to the fun section we had in Gardens of the Moon with Hairlock and how he became a marionette. We're going along the same lines, and I'm very much looking forward to this, with Talamandas being this little stick figure with an acorn head, being the little sidekick now to Quick Ben. But not in the bad sense like Hairlock was, because he was just a runt, wasn't he? And he was awful in Gardens of the Moon. Talamandas is for the good. He's for the positive, and I like that. Nothing deserves to be around Quick Ben that isn't positive, because Quick Ben is just the most positive character in this book, barring Croupe. Quick Ben just is all about the positive vibes and the saving and the helping and the heroism, and I don't want him teamed up with somebody who's not going to be a sidekick to help. So I've got high hopes for Talamandas that that's exactly what he's for. So the idea is that for Quick Ben to be able to use his warrens, Telemandus is going to go with him. He's going to act as his shield, because he spent all this time in Hud's warren, and it seems like Hud has made him this in order to do this, because Hud knows, obviously, with him being a god too, what's going on. And Telemandus has got his elder spirits, who too seem to be in agreement of this decision. So this is where we're going. It seems like we're going to give it a try, because Quick Ben wants to talk to his associates. He wants to have a conversation with Whiskey Jack and Dujek, because he's got no idea what's happened with the Panion, and he wants to find out. And what we find out is that it seems to work. He's able to use his warren as long as he's got Telemandus with him. And he does have a conversation with Quick Ben about the Panion and what they're going to do next, and how the firstborn of the dead seed, are they going to kill him as priority, or do they want to kill the seer as priority? Because there's a little bit of an argument that forms between Whiskey Jack and Corlat after this meeting with Quick Ben, which is Corlat thinks, and she thinks also Rake will agree with her, is that all of the Panions should be taken out. They should just be wiped out. Whereas Whiskey Jack and Dujek have a difference of opinion. They believe that the villagers, who are the Tenascaura, aren't necessarily held responsible. They've been starved and sent mad. This is why they're doing what they're doing. They just crave, and now they're in this mindset of this is what they do. So can they be held responsible? Then you've got Anasta, the firstborn child of the dead seed. Can he be held responsible for who he is? He's clearly been influenced by his circumstances and his mother. So can he be held responsible? But then you've got the seer. And the seer seems to be the master puppeteer. But are they? Is this Jagher essence seer the mastermind? Or is the mastermind the matron? We've still not quite found that out yet. So they're kind of falling out, because Corlat wants them all gone, but Whiskey Jack doesn't. Neither does Dujek. But this is also to do with the fact that they are somewhat being influenced and pushed into a corner by Empress Lysine. And that, my friends, is who I think that Atanthos is the Empress's little spy. I think that's who he is. I think he's a mage who is hiding that he's a mage, working for the Empress. That's who I think Atanthos is. So that's where I'm up to. There's a little bit more sort of. Rake knows about the predicament. Yeah, so they call a meeting, and you've got Calor and Corlat and Brood having this conversation about Whiskey Jack and Dujek, and Corlat thinks that she's revealing a revelation to Rake. Rake knows all about Dujek, Whiskey Jack, the Empress. He knows all about that. That's not fazing him. He's got no worries about that whatsoever. No problems with it. He's just ignoring that unless it comes to the point where Whiskey Jack and Dujek need his help to get out of it. Then he's more than happy to help. And he actually agrees with their mentality. He's going against the others and saying, sorry, but their mentality is quite right. It's not necessarily such a bad thing for the Empire to want to take these particular realms. Because quite frankly, as much as we have this issue of rule in a good way is better than devastation and nothing. At least under the rule of the Empire, the Malaz Empire, the people, yes, they might have to deal with rules, but at least they'll get fed. At least there'll be opportunities. And that's the way Rake is looking at it. And I don't remember Rake being like that in Gardens of the Moon. So maybe that's my mistake. But in this book, I'm realising that Rake's quite a nice guy. And I quite like Rake. Rake's got feels of Whiskey Jack to me, and I quite like that. So, yeah, I may have been reading him wrong in Gardens of the Moon. I didn't like him. So I think I was probably reading him wrong. He's definitely got good intentions. And Corlat is quite surprised by his intent. She feels quite proud of him, actually. She feels proud to be in following it under the rule of Amanda Rake, with his outlook and his theories. She feels quite proud to that. So then we've got, from before, Silver Fox and Croupe, they know of this talk that's happening. And Croupe wants to be part of it, so does Silver Fox. She should be doing something else at the moment, but they're going to go and join Paran and the rest, Whiskey Jack, Dujek. They're going to go and join them for this sort of warlord heads meeting, just to find out what's going on. And obviously Silver Fox is curious as to whether or not she can trust Croupe, because he's always up to something, isn't he? And his trusty mule just happens to show up at the right time, dragging along a horse for Silver Fox to be able to get to where they need to get to. Who is this mule? I have a suspicion, it'll sound ridiculous, I have a feeling that this mule could be a soul taken, or it's the alchemist. That's just a suspicion I have. But this mule doesn't seem like your regular mule. And that's where I'm up to. So I'm going to leave it there, and I'll see you in the next one. So hello. Last video of the day, because of the editing, etc. And we've got to get it up before the day ends. And sometimes my laptop likes to play up and likes to take well over an hour just to format the editing and then format it onto YouTube. So this is why I have to cut off now. If not, I would film for longer, but we have to cut off now. So we are in chapter 18, and as I explained to you before, that we have let me go back. Quick Ben finally came round. So we've had all the interesting bits with Quick Ben and Telemandus being the little stick figure with the acorn head. I'm going to mention them in a bit, but let's start where we left off. So Rake knows about the predicament with Dujek and Whiskey Jack, and he's choosing to basically ignore it. So we've gone through that. He knows the situation. He's ignoring it until Dujek and Whiskey Jack potentially need his help, and then he's going to step in and be like, okay, let's get you guys out of this predicament with Empress Lysine. Where we've got to now is we've learned a little bit more about Fenna, or Wrath Fenna. The severed hands were to be sent to Fenna as the purest of justice, but this was not the purest justice. So Fenna burned the marks into Wrath Fenna to deny the power of the hands, meaning he was sealing them away from him because he couldn't touch them and he couldn't remove them from his realm. So they're there and he's on the mortal realm now, and he's had to seal them like that. So we understand that part now. So when I mentioned about Telemandus and Quick Ben, I love this duo. This is a duo made in heaven. This is like your two Ronnies, it's like your Laurel and Hardy, it's like your what other duos can I think of? I can't think of any more off the top of my head. They are just the perfect duo for these scenes. It's superb. The humour, the fact that you have to remember that Telemandus is this little figure made from twigs and acorns. It's so superb. So the fact that unfortunately Telemandus ended up where he did because of the necromancers, and now Quick Ben wants to go and talk to the necromancers, and Telemandus is not a fan of this. Even though he's got Hood's protection, he's still not a fan because he can't die again, but he really doesn't want to see the people who put him in that place. Anywho, Quick Ben's taken him there. You know what Quick Ben's like. Once he's made his mind up, he's doing it. And Quick Ben is a very sort of stubborn, kind of my way individual, but everything that Quick Ben does is for the right reasons. It's not for the wrong. So they're going to see the necromancers, Beauchelane and Broach. We've learnt also about a couple of new warrens. There's a warren called Aral Gemelin, which is a demonic warren, which I found very interesting. I knew we would have some description of evil entities within this, so unless it's been mentioned before and I missed it, which is entirely possible, I'm personally now, because I'm taking my time with this and making prolific notes, believe me, I've nearly gone through an A4 pad of paper, prolific notes, and really studying the words and what Stephen Erickson is trying to say to us. I'm getting a different look on it, where doing it this way, vlogging style, on a daily basis and sharing my thoughts with you guys, it's allowing the information to go in better. So I hope you guys are enjoying this. I know it's very spoilery, and I know I'm kind of only reaching out to people who've read Malazan, but I also hope, I did get a comment saying by someone that they're actually enjoying this and it makes them want to read it. So these are spoilers, I will just warn you, but I don't think they're spoiler enough in the context that when you come to read it, you yourself won't enjoy it. I don't think I'm expressing too much to spoil the actual story. So if these vlogs are helping with that, then that is brilliant. That is something I would like to achieve, is that if you are struggling to understand the Malazan universe, then these vlogs are meant for that, and as a journey for existent Malazan readers to recap on things they may have forgotten, feel that connection again towards Malazan. So let's continue. So yeah, I was surprised to find that there's these demonic warrens, and there's also the Aptorians of Shadow that are used as well. There's another warren that's used. So Quick Ben's deciding which warrens he's going to use, which is safest, and he's toying between Hood's own warren and Arrel, the Arrel Gamelan, which is demonic. He opts for Hood's. But what they find when they get there is that there's no souls. There's nothing but memories. The souls have gone. They've been cleansed and they've gone. They've passed on properly. So this leads us back to the shield anvil and what he did for Rathfenna. But we learn something later on in the chapter that doesn't necessarily mean it was shield anvil. Let's continue. So they go through these different warrens, Quick Ben and Talamandus, and they do end up at the necromancer's home. But in the front of their porch, sitting on a rocking chair in my imagination, he's not in the book, but in my imagination, there's this great big demon rocking away. The images are sometimes quite funny in my head, how I like to picture them. But he's at the front of the house and he's called a Cerinth. And he's this big kind of demon with loads of sharp teeth and a big jaw, and kind of bigger than one of the bulls from Malazan. And if he needs to, he can move fast. And this is guarding the front door. So as Quick Ben tries to coax him away from the front door and opens the Arrel warren behind him, bringing the demon, sort of, come on, like you would a dog. It comes, but it's chained, so it can only go so far. So Quick Ben has to release the chains with these, and there's like glyphs on them, these markings, and he has to approach the demon in order to do that, and he does with caution, and he speaks to the demon while he's doing it, and he manages to find the one glyph that he needs to trace and slightly change in order to unlock the chains. He does this, but then as soon as he does it, the demon goes for him and he has to dart out the way. So him and Talamandus dive through back to Hood's warren and divert from the demon. So now he's in their house. So he sneaks into the walls and he finds where Beauchelain is and his servant Reese, and he has a conversation. The walls have ears is mentioned, which I found quite funny. So Parent has a conversation with Beauchelain, which at first is going okay. And there's a crow, like a raven or crow, on the mantelpiece, listening. And Beauchelain asks Reese to go and get them some flowery wine. Reese has no idea what this is, but he goes down to the basement, he gets this bottle of wine, brings it up. He's not sure. Beauchelain says, is it flowery? He says, I don't know what that is. He says, well, did you take it? Well, pour it out. He said, I tasted it downstairs. Because he only bought 2 glasses up. He said, was you not going to have some? He's like, well, they had some downstairs. Well, does it taste flowery? And he's like, well, it tasted Metallica. And he's like, so he looks at the bottle, Beauchelain, and he goes, this is blood. So obviously Reese is like, I'm sorry, it's what now? The crow's laughing on the mantelpiece. This is blood of somebody, obviously, who they've done whatever to. Reese the servant is distraught. That is just drunk blood. Quick Ben's kind of taking it all in his stride. So then he goes down and gets a real bottle of wine. He's told where they actually are instead of the bottles of blood. Brings that up. They carry on with the conversation. But then the crow starts to get a little bit antsy at what Quick Ben is saying and tries to reform into his human self to attack Quick Ben. He wants to kill him. And Beauchelain tells Quick Ben this. And Quick Ben, again, taking it in stride, is like, oh, okay. But part way through his transformation back to human form, or necromancer form, Quick Ben hits him with 6 warrens. And Beauchelain is very impressed by this and wants to know more. And you know what these two guys are like. They clearly have this weird, macabre kind of interest where they like to fiddle around with different species and find out how they work. So this piques his interest, and obviously he now is a threat to Quick Ben. So Quick Ben's only released 6 warrens on him, so Beauchelain's asking these questions now, like 6 warrens. I've never seen anybody handle 6 warrens before. That's impressive. Quick Ben wants off the subject, but Beauchelain is saying, answer my questions or you're going to get my wrath. Don't threaten Quick Ben. Don't do that. So Quick Ben says, right, I've come here to tell you that it's the crippled god. The crippled god is the one ruining your warren. So that's all I've come for. Nothing more than that. I'll be off. So Beauchelain too goes to attack. Well, what does Quick Ben do? He releases all 12 of his warrens. So yeah, he's out for the count. So off Quick Ben goes, taking Telemandus with him. Now they've got the imminent threat of these two coming back after Quick Ben. Whether they will or not, I don't know. They probably will, because they seem the revenge-seeking type to me. But hey, it's Quick Ben, you know. He'll recoup his power and he'll have his 12 warrens again, and we'll see how that goes. Then we go back. So they then find... they're off to find Paran and the rest. And Quick Ben is told via Hud, because he goes back through Hud's warren again to get back to Capistan, that Paran must deny the House of Chains into the deck of cards. He must deny it. Under no other circumstances, he must not give it his blessing. Now, when we came to the souls of Hud, it seems like it's Paran who blessed them and allowed them to go. That's the feeling I'm getting. That's where I'm going with it. But it seems like the crippled god is looking for, hopefully, for Paran to bless his cards that were made for him, to put them within the deck. And none of the gods, the elder gods, the gods, none of them want this, because they feel that then gives them, the crippled god, more power. So Quick Ben is given this message via Hud to prevent Paran from doing this. But Quick Ben, in return, wants Hud to release his hold on Telemandus, because he knows by using his warren, Hud's warren, that he has some sort of hold on Telemandus, and he wants him to release it. You can watch through Telemandus' eyes, he says, but you're no longer allowed to hold on to him. So that's the deal that's made. So we go then back to Paran, and he's sitting there on his own on the steps of the thrall, and he's contemplating his sisters. And at this time, it must be in the same time frame as Deadhouse Gates, where Felisin, as I've said previously in a video, is at the Tatteral Mines, and she is the slave, but of a different description. But Paran is getting the sense that, yes, his sister is, in those circumstances, Felisin, under the wing of a pit thug, he calls it. And no doubt he believes that his sister Tavore, who is now the new adjunct, has put protection in place for Felisin. All these things we know to be true. Having read Deadhouse Gates, we know that, yes, that has happened. So Paran's not far off the mark. So then Gruntle joins Paran. Do you mind if we both have a solitary moment, even though we're not solitary? Paran's fine. Have a seat. If you don't mind, I don't mind. And they get into a conversation about Gruntle's circumstances, Paran's circumstances. And Paran seems to divulge to Gruntle the fact that he now is being requested to bless this house, this pack of, this deck called the House of Chains. And Gruntle saying, well, I apparently am partnered with a god now, but I don't do anything god-wise. So, I mean, you know, if I'm going against it, I'm sure you can go against what's being asked of you. And Paran, it's like a light bulb moment. He goes, do you know what? You've got a point. You've got a point there. And then Gruntle makes the added note of, if you think about it, really, if you were to put that god's deck of cards in the deck, then surely he has to abide by the rules. And Perrin's like, you are right. That is spot on. Yes, he does. So how then can it be of a harm? I don't see how it can be any harm if you are taking away the freedom and putting him in a role play game. I have to contest, I agree. How can it hinder to take away some of the crippled god's freedom and put him in a more of a controlled environment with these cards? And plus, we wouldn't have the next book with the title that it's got if he doesn't, called House of Chains, which is what the cards are called, House of Chains. So he wouldn't have those if he doesn't actually bless these cards and allow them in. So I agree. You know, it's going to happen, isn't it? He's going to do it. It seems the right thing to do. Now Itkovian is on a new mission. He wants to get a new god to replace the one they've lost, which is Fenna, and he wants to get new followers. So he goes to speak to these 3 women, and who are seemingly witches, and they speak to him of this particular god who was a god of war, who has not been spoken about for some time now, who was called, and I don't know how to say this, but Togtha. There's a C in there, but I think it's silent, so Togtha. And this is Tog, Lord of Winter. And the Bagast call him Wolf Spirit. And for a while now, by Hetan, Itkovian has been being called Wolf. So maybe she's seen something. She is Bagast, so maybe she's seen something. So this is the god that he's going to go after. And he's got his one of his soldiers with him, and he's now told her that she's going to be the new shield anvil to this new god. So this is where Itkovian is at, and his thought process is, for his followers, is going to take the Teniscowry and make them follow this god he's going to find. So that's where Itkovian's at. Silver Fox. So sorry, that's where chapter 18 ends. So we've done chapter 18. I've now jumped into 19. Starts of chapter 19, Silver Fox and Croupe are still marching on with the 2 soldiers, the 2 bridge burners, the sisters who are hilarious. I love these 2. As they're marching, suddenly to the side, the Talani start to appear on one side, start to appear on the other side. It's only a few at a time, and then it grows and grows and grows and grows to like thousands. And then as they're carrying on, up in front appears the Talani Mass. And they come to talk and have this gathering with Silver Fox. This is where she had to go before she planned to go with Croupe. So she's having this gathering, and what Croupe is noticing, that as the Talani Mass have shown themselves, the air starts to smell of dying ice and like undeath, and it feels like it's filled with loss. This is probably the history of the Talani Mass exuding itself in this way, because the Talani are from a time of ice. So the Talani Mass can only be from a time of ice too. So this is seeming to Croupe like a knowledge that is swirling around while these Talani Mass are there. And he acknowledges it as like ancient knowledge and memories frozen between life and death. Sort of they're in a glacial state, in a frozen state between, because the Talani Mass are not quite either or. So they're in this state of life and death, and their memories are like of ice because they're frozen in this time. So I think that's where the premise mostly of the book is from, and its title is, we have a lot of involvement of the Talani Mass in this book, and with what the tie is that they've got with Silver Fox. It's their memories that are very poignant to the story, and especially to where the Talani Mass are at. Because yes, there is still Jaghur out there, but their job is kind of done. They've been doing this now for so long They just want rest. They just want out. They want done. And they ask Silver Fox, and Croupe is absolutely on side with the Talani Mas. He's got such a big heart, and he's saying they've done loads. It needs to stop now. He's trying to say to Silver Fox, you need to give them the time now. We need to call it and let them rest. And their Talani Mas are saying, we will get this Jag hurt who is with the Pani and Damin, but then can you just let us go? Can you just free us? And she says no. Now, my first instinct was I got really annoyed at that. I got really annoyed because she's not looking at it from the Talani Mas. She's not giving them the care and consideration that they deserve. But then I looked at it from her point of view, from Silver Fox's point of view, and we've got to remember that she's brand new. Yes, she's got Tatasale. Yes, she's got Night Chill. Yes, she's got Belurden. But the thing is, she is actually brand new. She's probably only maybe 4, 5, but in the way she's grown and the energy that she's taken from the Mabe, she's 20-something now. She's grown so quick. But she's also feeling that she doesn't belong. Who is she? She's not quite Rahiva. She's not quite Malazan. She's not quite anything, really. So she doesn't belong. So her instinct was, well, the Talani Mas are my people then. They're my people, and I get to find my people. I get to find my place where I belong. That's how she's feeling. And I felt like that with the loss of my family. So I understood that feeling of not wanting to be lonely. But yet, you can't hurt others for your own needs. You can't put others through misery for your own needs. And that's kind of what she wants to do. And the Talani Mas have been through enough. But so she doesn't feel alone, she's prepared to keep them in this bind, this curse that they're in. So it's just sad all around, really, at this moment. And that's where I'm up to in chapter 19. So, because of the time, and it's nearly 3 o'clock here in the UK, I've got to call time on it now. Otherwise, I won't have the time to edit and post. But yeah, some very interesting chapters today. So 17 was great. 17 was a fantastic chapter. I love the fact that Quick Ben's back. I love Quick Ben. He's one of my absolute favourite characters. And putting him in a duo with a stick figure with an acorn for a head. I mean, seriously, it doesn't get much better than that, does it? Telemandus and Quick Ben, great duo. And that's what Stephen Erickson's really good at, is his characterizations. He has a plethora of characters, but he uses them so well, and he draws you in. So, that's it for today. That's been vlog number 7. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. I hope you're enjoying the ride. We're getting close to the end. There's only 25 chapters, so we may have maybe 2-3 more vlogs to go for this book, and then we move on. So, thank you again for all your viewing, for all your likes. If you haven't subscribed and you've been watching, why don't you press the button? It costs you nothing, and hey, you never know, you may enjoy some of my other content. And if you haven't liked, if you wouldn't mind giving this video a like, that really helps. It helps get my channel out there and other people to see it. So other than that, have yourselves a great day, and I will see you all next time.